women will say, okay, I'll help you. I'll give you everything I got. And they won't charge you for it. Your essence, your knowledge, everything you've worked for should be monetized. The most harmful thing is ourselves and our view of how we can come into AI. We can be our own barrier in a way. We are 123 years away from global gender parity in the workforce for women. It's not that they don't want to, it's that they have to be able to enter an environment where they know that this is for them. We have to show up. And I love that at Empressa, we're making the call and women are showing up. And they're showing up with courage. Train it in the way that you would train the next generation.
Today's guest is Miri Rodriguez, former storyteller at Microsoft, cancer survivor, and now CEO and founder of Empressa.ai, a groundbreaking AI platform built by women for women. After spending 13 years at one of the world's biggest tech companies, Miri left to create something that didn't exist yet. A space where women's knowledge is not only heard, but valued, scaled, and paid for. In this conversation, we talked about why most AI systems still aren't built for women, how legacy systems have consistently excluded female voices, and how Empressa is working to fix that, one insight at a time. We get into some deeply personal stories, powerful analogies, and practical frameworks for building more inclusive AI. Now, let's dive in. Miri, you've spent the last 13 years, actually, you've left Microsoft, but you spent 30 years at Microsoft as a storyteller. And not so long ago, you decided to make the move to leave Microsoft and build Empressa.ai.
That's right.
Can you share what part of your journey made you realize this was the moment to create your own platform and leave Microsoft?
That's a great question. It's the first question that came off the bat. Thank you for such an insightful question. I knew at one point I would leave Microsoft. I didn't know when. In fact, I had been working on Empressa for about a year and a half before I left. And what was very interesting in my journey at Microsoft that I want to call out here for those people who may not know my story. I'd spent 13 years, 6 of those as a storyteller. I did storytelling in engineering, in sales, in HR, in operations. So a great space of different types of storytelling for enablement of the digital age and the era of AI, which is exciting. I also went through a medical journey, a personal medical journey that is very, very specific to women. I went through breast cancer and I had it in both breasts. And I was diagnosed with the BRCA gene mutation. BRCA stands for BR is for breast and CA is for cancer. And so that is a genetic mutation. And my journey was about a 2.5-year journey that involved 5 surgeries in total, including the breast removal and breast reconstruction and a total hysterectomy. Each time I was having a surgery during this time, I was at Microsoft and I took, I was in and out taking a leave. Every time that I was recovering, I had almost a download is what I can call it of insights of things that, when you're enter this life where you're thinking about what's next, if life ends, what happens, what is your legacy? I had looked back at all the 20 years in tech that I have compiled and the work that women had done, including myself, and where does that go? Where would I go if I was no longer here? And then I thought we have to scale this. We have to bring a legacy, something that is tangible, no longer one-on-one. I've had many conversations with women. I've helped them in different ways, personal branding and workshopping. How can we scale this? And it dawned on me this was going to be an AI. And then I was scared. I was like, oh no, Microsoft can take my IP, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can leave Microsoft and do this outside of Microsoft. How do I disclose? So having all these conversations, it actually was so wonderful that Microsoft, once I disclosed, invited me actually to join the Microsoft for Startups program. So we became a partner. They actually gave us 100,000 Azure credits to build our AI on Azure. So we did. So we're on the Azure stack. And it was just one of those things that that it's the moment to do something beyond yourself. So how did I know? I didn't. I just followed intuition and the alignment of things that happened. And you realize, okay, this is beyond me. This is beyond my own wildest dreams. This is something for the world and for the women of the world. So then we took the leap and we launched just a couple of weeks back. And it's been an incredible journey. And I have not looked back once, not once.
Do you think you'll have had the same inspiration if it hasn't been from the cancer? I mean, I will
No.
assume it's
It's a great question. I think, and I've talked to many women, by the way, once I went out my story about breast cancer, a lot of women have reached out to me personally, and they've said it is life changing. It's something that kind of pauses you and makes you think beyond yourself. What is that legacy? What is, what is that thing we're working for? And I love Microsoft, and I love that Microsoft has been mission driven, and I've always aligned to the Microsoft mission to empower every person and organization on the planet to achieve more. I think I know Empressa is a baby girl extension of Microsoft, and all the things that I learned in putting that into motion specifically for women because it is important for us. And there's a lot of work to be done in that space. So I can't say that I would be here had I not gone through something like that. It would definitely make me pause and reflect and really get courageous about, if I'm given a second chance in life, what will I do with that chance? Well, here I am. I'm doing this. So
and this is such a great project. You said that it's built for women, and you already mentioned that AI is trained on historical data, and it's not built for
it's
women.
not.
And I can understand how biased an LLM can be based on the fact that it's trained on the curses of the whole web, which is biased by nature. So, from your experience, what are the most harmful gaps that you found on AI systems today, specifically to women?
Yeah, we're actually we're gonna publish a report this week from Empressa, from the data that we've been collecting for a year and a half, and then now through the launch, which we have great insights based on conversations, based on a lot of quantitative data as well, on a lot of surveys and gaps that we've seen with women coming in. One thing that I think was surprising in a way to me, but it shouldn't have been, is that women are far more advanced in using AI tools than we believe or lead to believe, and that is not because the surveys are wrong. That's because women tend to historically tend to downplay their abilities a whole lot. So if you ask them a question, and if you say in a survey, how comfortable are you with an AI tool? They may say they are moderately comfortable when they are actually a super user. And so that actually skews the data. And it's a very interesting thing to think about how women approach it personally, because that also impacts the results, the data that we're seeing. So it starts with us. I would say that the most harmful thing is ourselves and our view of how we can come into AI. We can be our own barrier in a way. And I've studied the why. And the why is compelling. It's not wrong. We fear that AI is going to be a bad actor against us. We fear that it's going to expand on malefactor abilities and capabilities toward us. We have had to contend with technology historically that doesn't consider us as biologically or mentally, or how we enter the world emotionally or any other way. So we are approaching it with a lot of caution, and that is stifling our opportunity to adopt faster. And so we don't trust the systems. We know they are biased. I just actually responded to a message on LinkedIn about a woman who said, how could it be, the Canva founder and CEO, it's a woman, yet when I go to Canva and ask for some elements, it's all like the data is all men and men driven. And I was like, because it doesn't matter who is at the top, it really is the data that is informing
Mhm.
these
Yeah.
machines. So when you have 80% of authorship of the internet being men, when you have 90% of GitHub engineers are men, and when you have only 12% of women in AI workforce, it doesn't matter if it's how much we want it to be safe, it won't be for us, and we know that intuitively. So the harm is really in the established systems that we have to carefully undo one by one, and the layers. And it's really up to us. We can't sit here and blame systems. We can't sit here and get angry about it. We have to do about it. We have to show up. And I love that at Empressa, we're making the call, and women are showing up, and they're showing up with courage, and they're showing up and saying, okay, what do I do? How do I get my fingerprints on this line of code? And how do I enable data that is not skewed anymore? I would say that's the main factor in harm. The second one, I would say, is for the next generation, how they're approaching AI. So we're thinking about our younger Gen Alpha, not even Gen Z, because they're pretty much entering the workforce now. They're in their early 20s. Gen Alpha's coming in. They will be what we call AI native. So we had digital natives. They will be AI native. So how are they approaching it today? How are the kids today, ages 5, ages 6 and 7? How will they be having a relationship with AI as women, as girls, that they know empowers them versus harms them, that they know it can bring parity versus not. So it's education. It's how can we enable them now so that they are not afraid of it and they can code it and they can be part of it.
So you mentioned that women are perceiving LLMs as bad actor more than men.
Yeah.
Why is that? So why do women don't trust AI as much as men?
Yeah,
Is
always give and when that's a good question. I always give the example of the car as a technology, right? The car was built over 100 years ago, over a century ago, and it was certainly built by a man, and it was built for men. And so when I think about the car today, 51% of drivers in the US are women. So I'm talking about statistics not worldwide, but in the United States, we have 51% of drivers that are actually women. So more drivers that are women than men. When I get in the car in the States, I like to drive an SUV, so that's a sports utility vehicle. It's a large vehicle. I'm small framed, so when I get into the car, I have to push my seat all the way to the almost to the front, so I can take a hold of the wheel, the steering wheel, so I can drive it. And the airbag deployment system, the machine, the technology that's been built for the car to save my life, it's actually still in 2025. It is still measured against the standard of a man who is 175 pounds and 6 foot, or 5'11 to 6 foot, 175 pounds, which is telling you the machine is encoded that if I hit the car, if I get into a car accident, the airbag will not deploy in time. I'm so close to the steering wheel that I'll probably hit my head first before it actually deploys the way that it is meant to. That is 100 years after a machine was built for men, while there's 51% of those drivers that are women. And still, I run a risk of my life because the machine was not built for me in mind. It was not built for me in mind. And so that is the history that women have with technology. We've consistently have to ask technology to catch up, or we have to catch up with technology. When you think about medical technology and training of machines and training of systems and data to, for example, give us medication, it wasn't until 1983. 1983, that's my sister's birthday, that medical breakthroughs included now female biology. So the medicines we were taking were for male biology. So all the research that had been done was for male biology. So we know this in our history, and we understand that technology doesn't necessarily think of us when it's being created. And so we come and we approach it with a lot of caution. So that's where it comes from.
I told you I have a daughter, I have a wife in
Yes.
tech. Can you just give me one concrete example of today?
Yeah.
My daughter, let's say my daughter using Copilot or
Yeah.
ChatGPT or another LLM. What kind of harmful behavior she might experience from
Yeah.
LLMs?
So let's say that she's using Copilot for school. She's using a research for school, and let's say it's a research paper about animals in the zoo, and she wants to talk about animals in the zoo, and she's sourcing information, researching, and she starts to do her search. Hey, Copilot, can you help me find more information about animals in the zoo? The machine is being basically trained to source and make decisions on the most reliable data, right? So it's thinking, okay, what is good sourcing? And it's in the back end thinking, and it's sourcing thousands, billions, and trillions of data points to bring about an answer in 3 seconds that might be the most reliable answer for her. 90% of that content, 80 to 90% of that content is male created, male authored. If she's talking about animals incarceration, for example, in the zoo and how they're depressed, a man may not have talked about it, a woman may have talked about it, but she's missing that other half of information that probably didn't get published. A lot of work that the women do in each of the fields do not get published. And so when we bring to the table information, that information is only one-sided and mostly male authored, 80 to 90%. So the information coming in does not consider other pieces that could be critical to what she is thinking about. And a lot of that has to do with what we call the female quotient in terms of empathy and communication and other things that we think about when we have an experience at work that it's just different from men. It's not good or bad. It's just how we approach it differently. I've seen Microsoft evolve from a company that, I was there before Satya Nadella joined as CEO. And before we were empathy led, right? Before he came in as, I was there in the Balmer days. And you could say the culture of Microsoft essentially changed. It became a lot more emotionally connected, emotionally intelligent. Women bring a lot of that to the table. We naturally do that. So if we are missing half of that information, we're missing a lot of information that could be provided for data, for reports, for anything that we're trying to think about, critically thinking about something, we're missing half of it.
Yeah, we tend to forget that men and women don't necessarily process the information the same way. We don't.
And it's good. It's good that we don't. We bring to the table a lot of different wonderful capabilities. But when you blend them, you have an opportunity to see a whole picture of something. It could be the same experience, but it looks differently. For example, women are more communal, right? When you think about women communities, women enterprises, they always think beyond themselves. So if it was probably if a man would have if a woman would have built a car, she probably would have thought about children and safety and elderly people joining and disabled people. That's just the way that we think. It's not wrong. It's just different. And so it expands the knowledge and it expands the way that we come together as a human race and enables each other better. If we take just one aspect, it's not bad. It's just it might miss something that it's bigger for us and that can be more empathy driven for the human race.
So to help fill that gap, you built Empressa.ai,
right.
and I'd like you to explain in more detail, but you're basically using women's experience rather than the traditional data set that's been pulled from everywhere on the web, mostly. So what made you realize that this was needed to create an AI system that will really talk and be more tailored to women?
Yeah, well, so our idea is really it's multifaceted for women. The first one is the lack of accessibility to other women's knowledge. And so this is a multi-layered approach. And this is back to how women react in society, how we have been conditioned. So historically, and this is our evolution as women has not changed a whole lot in the way that we think about survival in the last 10,000 years. So we're still a little bit of the cave woman response when we are finding ourselves in a place that is not safe. So we respond as cave women. And cave women do not lock arms with each other. They save their secrets. They don't share everything out because it was a mode of survival. I'm not going to share my secrets because if I do, then this other cave woman's going to take it from me and probably take my patch of berries that I gathered. So I'm not going to share it. Obviously, we don't have the same harmful immediate dangers. And so this idea of us locking arms and sharing secrets and trading secrets is really important. Women do that, and it's not that they don't, but they have to trust the environment. So a lot of women, once they trust, they'll give away everything, and they'll give it away for free, which is another problem. Women will say, okay, I'll help you. I'll give you everything I got, and they won't charge you for it. Men will never think about that. Men's like, hey, my money, my essence, that's money. I need to charge you for that, right? So we approach it in two extreme ways. We either don't share it because we don't feel comfortable, or once we do, we give it away and then we don't monetize it. So Empressa is a solution to that for women who are experts. We invite women who are 10 plus years in any industry to join Empressa and to share their insights in their digital. They create a digital library. It is their own insights. It is proprietary. We don't, unless they give us the permission to use it for sourcing for our AI. But beyond that, it is always theirs. It is just another channel for them to expand their knowledge. So they create their insights, and this insight informs our AI. And on the other side, we have subscribers. So it's users, younger generation, early in career, women who are just building their business or who are pivoting their career, and they would never have access to this information. LinkedIn it's just overwhelming. Network is overwhelming. We don't have the time. So can I just go in and ask a question that is very pointed to my situation? Hey, I just started my business. How do I scale my business with storytelling? Well, me, because I'm a storyteller, and 3 other storytellers will show up and be like, hey, I'm glad you asked that question. Here's how I did it. Here's how I scaled it. And here's how you can do it as well. So it's not just giving you advice, it's giving you a council of women with their own lived experiences and stories. And then you get to pick what serves you or not. So it brings accessibility worldwide. It also helps these women expand their knowledge and actually monetize it. So whenever the AI uses one of the woman's insights to answer a query, she gets paid on the back end a royalty. So they actually can track how many times the AI used their knowledge and their insights to answer and to help another woman.
You mentioned that historically women are sharing less than men, and I kind of agree. That's something I see on LinkedIn. I see far more men posting like tip and tricks and even monetizing their knowledge
Yes.
on LinkedIn. Do you think it might be one of the reasons that the curses of knowledge is a bit biased? It's just because historically women haven't shared as much as men as
Yeah,
well?
I mean, I think the system is multifaceted. I don't think there's a one thing that we can point at and say this is why. I think women have a lot to do with it. Men have a lot to do with it. History has a lot to do with it, and it's all just part of this system that's been built over the years. And then now we got to undo it. Now there's a part of us to play. There's a part of men to play. There's a part of systems to play, and all of us, we gotta address it, and we gotta say, hey, this is my responsibility, my part in it, and I gotta step in and be courageous and start talking more and start sharing more, and not act from that mindset. Come in and act differently this time around.
I don't want to get technical, but how do you take this knowledge sharing, those stories, those experiences that are shared by experienced
Yeah.
women, put it in an AI model that will learn from it and not losing the context or becoming biased on the other side?
Yeah. So we do have algorithm justice systems in place where we are. I'll give you one example. A lot of the questions we get from women is like, okay, well, what if we have 50 storytellers and one person asks one question? How do we make sure that everybody gets paid, right? We want to make sure that all 50 storytellers, where's the justice in that? And so our system, it's been trained to look at the data, understand the insights that they submitted. First thing is the data integrity is important for us. So those insights, we tell our women to make sure this is quality information that they're sharing. This is theirs. Women have downloaded or downloaded information from their own social media channels, for example, and uploaded there. That they can do whatever they want. It's really their digital library. Some women have uploaded their books, their own frameworks. It's really whatever they want. The integrity of the data will look at it and say, okay, how relevant and how reliable is this information in order to answer that query? So it has to be reliable information from the women. And then there's a justice system, a rotation system, where if one query comes in about storytelling, the next one that comes in, the system will rotate and no longer will be just me. It'll be somebody else who's also in that category of storytelling content. So it'll read and say, okay, Miri talks about storytelling, Beth talks about storytelling, Michelle talks about storytelling. So it'll pick and go and make sure that there's that. So we have worked with 100 women, founding members, through the build of the AI before we went to launch. And this was part of why we want to make sure, and we're saying it's by women for women. We did a lot of testing around what that looks like, what that fairness looks like, how that shows up for women, how safe it is for women. And so to us, it's really been an endeavor of not assuming what we think women want just because I'm a woman. I can't just assume that. I have to make sure that it shows up the way that women need versus what I want it to show up like. So we've been iterating a lot. And now after launch, we continue to iterate. We're seeing our users, basically it's flexible enough that we're learning what women need versus what we think they want.
And I mean, I think today's world of AI, everything is AI nowadays. This is a huge topic.
Yes.
We're going in the world of agentic AI.
Yes.
With Copilot Studio,
Yeah.
Agent Force. There's more and more agent products that we're seeing every day. So, what do you suggest? What have you learned, or what design principle will you suggest for any organization that want to make sure that when they're building their agents, they won't have those kind of biases in their agents?
Yeah. So actually, like I said, we're just about to publish a report that's going to tell organizations our findings on that. For organizations to really ensure that as you move toward this AI first or digital first world, there's a few things that they can do to integrate women specifically in the first parts of that shift that they're making, that transformation. The first one is enabling women to learn their own way. So one of the things that we learned is that we women learn very differently than men, and for that reason we also have not been adopting AI faster. Our on-demand content, which is great, LinkedIn, Microsoft, all the great ones, we pay for it, and then we don't finish it, not because we don't want to. We still hold 65% more of the workload at home than men do. So if you have a couple today who's a modern work, both go to work full time, both have children, you come home, the woman in that partnership is doing 65% more work. So we're exhausted. It's just our reality. And so we keep putting our own skill up or skilling abilities down. We don't prioritize it. So we learned that cohort based and live learning is important for women. We actually created a training called AI Foundations, and we decided to launch Empressa with an AI Foundations for Women event, which blew us out of the water. It was actually global. We made a call and we had 250 women respond to be speakers on the first 24 hours. We had 33 cohorts globally, beginning in APAC. That's part of the report that we're sharing. And one of the things that was really important was that when we decided to do this event globally, we could not find a platform that enabled women to play with AI tools in a place where it feels safe. So if they go to ChatGPT open source or any open source, they may feel again, oh, it's biased. It's not going to give me the answer that I want, or it may respond differently than I need it. It may not consider me. If I talk about, hormones and depression, it might just cancel my query because, depression could lead to whatever. And so we actually created Empressa Playground as a response, the overwhelming response to women wanting to learn AI their own way. And it just became another product that we didn't even know we were having. And now enterprises are reaching out and saying, hey, we want to partner with you to have this program, because women are excited to learn. It's not that they don't want to, it's that they have to be able to enter an environment where they know that this is for them. So organizations ought to not just ask women, hey, go learn it with content that probably a man created for everybody. Create spaces and create moments or join programs that are women led and for women that really enable conversations that are for them. We saw a lot of information from women coming into the space in a space that felt private to them, where they can ask questions and they could learn. So curiosity drives this, and you will be surprised if you're listening to this and you're an enterprise leader. It's not that they don't know. Women know a lot, and they surprised us because they knew more than we thought they did, or what they said they did. It's just that they're not confident in sharing how much they know, or they're not given the space. So create a space that women can share. Create hackathons where you're starting to talk about project-based organizations instead of hierarchical. You're going to have, for example, an opportunity, which we're doing in Empressa. We're actually building a frontier firm at Empressa as well. So it would look like project-based. Again, hey, we're going to create a sales force. Okay, well, let's bring 3 women who have had sales experience in the past, and let's bring them into a project. Let's do a bid. They come in, everybody just starts basically hacking and bringing in different tools, Perplexity, whatever the tool of their choice, and thinking about agents that can help automate some sales processes, such as email automation. And so then we look at it, we see which one works best, and we implement. So that is a great way for organizations to just continuously bring women into the hands-on, not just the theoretical or the leadership on top. It's really just everybody's, hey, who has experience in this, who has experience, come into the table and begin to hack tools and agentic workforce. That is the next way. So I would say skilling for women that is tailored to them, hackathons or opportunities where they can come in and hands-on train and play with AI and bring AI solutions to the table. And then the third one really is around leadership. So as you hire these new roles that are going to be AI first, you have like the chief marketing AI officers. When you add that AI tool, AI interpretation into it, just think about the solutions that women can bring. As we were saying earlier, Samuel, we bring a different perspective to the table. So look at your organization and say, sure, I can bring in 5 men with 50 years experience, 25 years experience, 20 years experience, whatever you want, into this world, into this table, or I can bring 3 men and 2 women who are going to give perspective that we didn't have before, that is going to enable our AI tools integration to consider bias, to consider possible non-inclusion, to consider non-ethical practices. So women come in already thinking of that, and it's going to enable you to really think about sustainability with AI.
So it's giving more space in the decision process of building those AI agents to women and giving a platform for them to expand their knowledge and share and being part on the decision of building those AI agents at the end.
Yeah, and with the recognition that women will probably say, no, I don't know enough, right? Women will, and this is also data, by the way, a man, this is all over the internet, a man will apply to a role that they see online and they say, 3 out of the 5, sure, I can do it. And they apply, right?
I agree.
All the time. And so, but women will go, oh, no, I'm 4.5, I'm half away, I'm a half a point. No, I'm not going to apply. So there's a woman that's probably even better at the job, but she doesn't apply because in her mind, the way that we think, it's like, I got to be 5 out of 5. And so that's how we approach life. So with that consideration, think these women may say, oh, I don't know. I would love the opportunity. They sell themselves a little bit shorter. And then you could say, hey, just come in. Just come in with courage. Just come in, make that invitation, an intention to bring them to the table, and they will definitely surprise you. They're surprising us, and I shouldn't be surprised because I'm a woman, but they are blowing me out of the water, and I'm just so excited.
Something I really like about your framework is that you're paying royalties to women,
Yes.
providing insight to the AI. And I think that it can apply to everyone, not just women. That can become a blueprint for how you compensate people who create the data that is then used by the AI system. So how do you came up with that idea?
Yeah. So yeah, you called it out well. It can be definitely great for everyone. And I think it might end up being something that can go mainstream in the future, just because in this proliferation of AI knowledge and internet content, I think we're going to get a little bit tired of just AI being AI at some point, and we want to make sure that our content is being sourced by a real human at some point. So I think we're going to head there faster than we think. The way I thought about this was in my own experience, and then as I learned other women's experience, when I started being invited to conversations and talking in different places and being invited to speak in different conferences, I just went. I was like so excited. I was yes. I said yes to everything, and I showed up and I spoke at events. Years later, I've been there. Maybe I've been doing this for a long time, but like 6 years in, I remember I was invited to a keynote, and it was a pretty big scenario. It was a big conference, and I was like, wow, I'm going to be the keynote. This is great. And I realized I wasn't getting paid, and the conference is a paid only, obviously, experience. And so I was like, oh, that's interesting. I wonder if anybody else gets paid when they come. And I found out that yes, some men were getting paid. They were not even the keynote. And I was like, wow, why am I not getting paid? And it was because I simply didn't ask, and a lot of women don't ask. We just think that the system is going to recognize, oh, she's really great. We might just, pay her. And that's not going to happen ever. And so that's one more thing where the system is broken. Women just don't ask. And then women just give. And we dilute ourselves so much. And so the system of paying women royalties is, number one, to break that barrier for women and let them know your content is worthy and it's worth it. And so we want to monetize it. It's not free. Your essence, your knowledge, everything you've worked for should be monetized. And so that teaches them, wow, if Empressa's paying me, I'm going to be more likely not going to just give it away to somebody else. I'm going to be like, no, Empressa pays me for this. I'm going to go monetize. So it's a change in paradigm for women psychologically. And the other one is for the world. The world should know that women's insights should be paid. And so, we're modeling that for everybody to go, wow, if Empressa's paying, why shouldn't we pay? And so it creates this economy, this new economy for women being honored and rewarded as they should for their insights, which is very valuable. We don't want them to feel ever that AI is taking advantage of them. AI is here to enable them and empower them, not take advantage of them.
AI agents are becoming more autonomous, right?
Yes.
So at some point, and maybe it will be part of your platform at some point, but agents are able to craft email without necessarily the input of a human being, which define that they are autonomous. How do you design an inclusive agent? Because we need to use the foundational model out there. You need to start. I will assume that Empressa.ai is using one of the foundational model, right?
It
Are
is.
you
It's the
using some
GPT.
kind of-
It's the OpenAI GPT model. Yes, foundational.
So you're either using fine tuning, using instruction, or providing information through
To then
RAG.
yes, to train it the way that we need it to, the output. That is correct.
So let's say I'm a woman, I'm creating an agent with Copilot. How do I make sure that it's not biased? Considering I can't train the model or wherever I have access to the instruction, what will you say are the most common biases toward women that you want to address in the instruction?
Yeah. So I think it's not that they're just biases toward women directly. I don't think that's the what I've seen. I think it's just the lack of information that includes women. Do you see what I mean?
Right,
I think it's not directed at women, or it's not directly addressing not women. It's just because of the information that it sources from, typically is not authored by women, or it doesn't include women. It's just going to give you an output that it knows. And so the way that I have trained, and that I have asked women to start training it, is to include their own content into the AI. I've trained my ChatGPT, for example, my Copilot as well. I've created several agents. I've created a Miri digital voice. I've created a Miri marketing voice. I've created a Miri thinking voice. I've created different kind of aspects of me. And that Miri, it knows who I am. It knows my tone, my voice, what I'm about. I don't have to say every time, Miri Rodriguez, act like Miri Rodriguez, or send this email out from Miri Rodriguez. It just knows who I am. It's learned my tone, my voice. And what it's done is, at the small scale, it helps me out because I can automate a lot of tasks, right? Which is great. I could not have absolutely, launched Empressa in the time that we did without the help of AI. I mean, the timing was impeccable for us to launch a product like this with such a flat organization. So I'm so grateful. Beyond that, I'm doing it in open source on purpose. So I wanted to know there's a Miri Rodriguez out there. I want the world to know that there's a Miri Rodriguez out there that does these kind of things. So if you look me up, or if you ChatGPT or Copilot Miri Rodriguez, she's going to show up. Miri is in the house, right? And so I'm doing that on purpose. Why? Back to the conversations we've been having, the theme is we have to show up. Women have to make themselves present in platforms. They have to have a digital footprint. The more that I'm teaching this AI about me, the more it considers me when it's creating. It's one more line of code, right? It's one more line of code that I'm adding. And so if I'm doing this and billions of women are doing it, guess what? Our AI is becoming more inclusive and more inclusive. And when it's sourcing, it learns from that. It learns the conversations I'm having. And so I also teach it. When it tells me something that I'm like, no, I don't think that's what it is, I respond. I'm like, no, I consider this instead. You're right, Miri. You're right. We should probably consider this instead. So again, it's a conversation we're having. Do not treat the system as a once and for all. It is completely trainable, and we should be training it to make it more inclusive.
That's really, really insightful. A lot of facets of the conversation I haven't thought about. So thank you so much for that. We're almost at the end of our time. However, I have my last two signature questions.
Okay.
So let's start with the first one. If you had one practical tip that will help you be more productive using AI, what would it be? Just one.
One practical tip is to train it in the way that you would train the next generation. Think about the next generation. Don't think about it as a future. Think about it as you're building something for the future. The future is already here. And so this generation that has the privilege to start something new, that it will be, and it has been comparable to the industrial age in massiveness of the shift that it will create for work, for the workplace, for how the new generation will enter into this workforce. We're building that right now. So think of that. Think about the children and what that will look like. Think about the ethical implications of that. And when you begin that interaction with it, what are you doing? What is your grain of salt that will continue that into an ethical and sustainable system completely? Let's not use it just for us. Let's use it for the next generation. That is my practical advice.
Love it. And last, actually, I'm really curious what will be your answer on this. How do you see AI evolve and change our life in the next 10 years? But from your viewpoint, do you think it will be less biased? Do you think it will learn and it will be more inclusive for the next generation?
I don't know how fast this technology is going to evolve. I believe when we include quantum, which is also, a
Yeah.
sister technology that is definitely impacting and influencing many different things. I think when these two mesh, at some point, it's going to be just an incredible surge of innovation that we may have never seen before, and definitely not in our generation and generations past. The level and the fast, the fast innovation that will occur. What I would like to see and what I do dream of in this innovation space is the gender parity. We are 123 years away from global gender parity in the workforce for women. I may not see that. I will die before we see our women get paid the same amount of money that men do for the same job. So my hope is that wherever AI is at this point in terms of innovation, that we are leveraging it for good and for women to accelerate that number, to close that gap faster, and that we will, with Empressa's help as well, that we will enable a world where our children won't have to worry about making less because they have the same opportunities as men do in the world.
Thank you so much. It was super insightful. Thank you for the work you're doing. Thank you for my daughter, for my wife, all the wonderful and brilliant women around me. It was very an interesting conversation. And I wish you all the success in the world with
Thank you.
Empressa.ai. And obviously, I'll put the link to the website in the description and the show notes. So thank you so much, Miri.
Thank you so much, Samuel.
Before we wrap up, I want to highlight a few things that really stood out from this conversation with Miri. First, women are often much more advanced in their use of AI than they claim to be. The gap isn't in skills, it's in confidence and language. When you give women a space that feels safe, relevant, and designed for them, their adoption and creativity with AI accelerate quickly. Second, bias in AI is often invisible because it's baked into the data. If 80 to 90% of what models are trained on is male authored, then the outputs will naturally miss a huge part of women's lived experience. The fix starts with women showing up, publishing, training their own copilots, and making their perspectives part of the system. Third, all of us need to stop treating AI as something that's out there and start treating it as something we actively shape. That means training agents with our own values and stories, questioning answers that feel one-sided, and inviting more diverse voices into how these tools are built and used. And finally, if you're leading AI in an organization, don't wait for perfect conditions to involve women. Design women-first learning experiences, run mixed hackathons, and bring women into the room when you define your agents and guardrails. If you found this conversation helpful, subscribe to Mastering AI with the Experts and check out my newsletter, Mastering AI for Productivity, for more insight and practical ideas like these. See ya!